Do you find yourself spending hours planning out rooms' best possible layouts, or pointing out items and color schemes that would look nice in your house or frequented spaces? Well, then interior design is just for you. Interior design is not only a career choice, but a hobby and a way of life. I'm so happy that you've decided to journey with me through the amazing world of interior design. This is a course geared not only to those wanting a career in the design industry, but also to those of you who are wanting to start your own design businesses, or even those of you who are wanting to carry out your own home renovation projects. The sky is the limit with the industry, and I cannot wait to show you how as we tackle the journey to becoming interior design professionals. Right, all the important information out the way, let me introduce you to our very first lesson on our design journey. The sketchbook of interior design. We are going to kickstart our interior design journey as we begin this course looking at what it means to be an interior designer, as well as the understanding of the profession or interior design industry. We're going to familiarize ourselves with the concept of communication in interior design as we look at communication tools and tricks that designers use on the daily. Did you know that there are various design personalities that we can align ourselves with? Well, in this lesson, we tackle what an interior design personality is and where you sit in the interior design personality spectrum. From here, we tackle some of the basic design terminology before working your way through sketching and the critical elements that we need to look out for when putting pen to paper. The importance of sketching is highlighted as we create some of our very own sketches by hand and outline what it means to sketch in interior design. So please bring your sketchbooks along for this lesson as we start getting very creative. A really handy tip here. Lesson 1 and lesson 2 are almost a combo deal, as we're going to be using what we learned in lesson 1 to create a floor plan for lesson 2. So make sure that you're taking this all in, as you'll be taking your sketching techniques from this lesson to create your floor plan drawings for lesson 2. In each of your lessons right through this course, we are going to have a set of learning objectives that we're going to cover and use to boost your skill set up. The learning objectives are going to guide you through each of the modules to help you achieve that diploma in interior design. So with that being said, let's take a look at what's lined up for us for today's lesson, as we start off by defining the interior design industry, and we look at the profession of interior design here. From here, we move on to exploring various design personalities, moving on to evaluating communication tools that we use in interior design. And lastly, we apply these communication tools in a mini sketching exercise. So as you can see, a jam-packed lesson, but a really exciting one at that. These skills that we will be uncovering on our journey to becoming interior designers are not only highly beneficial for your clients and your career, but they are also going to be valuable in your own personal life. You're going to learn how to effectively communicate, budget, and plan, as well as estimate and calculate value, develop an eye for design, and become an influencer in your ever-growing professional and personal network. Now that all of the admin has been covered, let's get straight into the lesson, as we're going to start with a did you know. So, did you know that you do not need to be a Da Vinci or Michelangelo to become an interior designer? Guys, not all interior designers are from an artistic background. I know, right? Shocking. You don't need to be an artist to become an interior designer. Being a creative and being an artist are two very different things. So stay tuned to our lesson as we explore this theory in a little bit more detail. As this is a practical course, you are going to need to come prepared for your lessons by gathering a couple of stationery items along the way. So I've added a full summary of a design toolkit for you in your bonus content located on your student dashboard if you feel that you'd like to get ahead of the game. But for today's lesson, and for those of you who would like to just get prepared for this lesson, you're going to need the following. You need to grab a sketchbook. Now, the sketchbook is going to be your design manual, your trusty Bible from here on out. This sketchbook needs to be filled up with all of the practical content that we cover in every single lesson. So make sure that you've got a nice, big, thick sketchbook. And don't worry if you fill it up, because that's obviously the aim. You can go out and grab another book. So please get a nice, thick, trusty sketchbook. You can go for an A4, but I'd suggest a minimum of about an A3 sized sketchbook. From here, I'd like you to grab a set of fine liners, pencil crayons in a variety of colors, as well as an HB pencil and an eraser. And lastly, if I could ask you all to sit in a nice quiet spot somewhere where you have space to draw for the lesson. Make sure that no one can bother you for the next 45 minutes. Grab your cup of tea or coffee and get comfy as we begin. For today's lesson, we are going to break our lesson up into 3 topics. Topic 1, starting off with the ABC of interior design. Topic 2, we look at the design personalities within the design industry. And topic 3, we're going to look at communication tools that we as designers use to get our ideas across to our clients. Starting off the lesson, and we begin with the ABC of interior design. The practice of interior design has been around for many years, although not quite respected as a career path until fairly recently. This is an industry that eludes creativity, luxury, depth, and variety in every single element of its practice. So then what is interior design? Interior design is such a beautiful industry to be a part of, but sadly, not everyone really understands what it is we do. Since you have decided to take on this new journey of interior design with me, can you tell me what you think the practice of interior design really is? Have a look around you and see if you can use your current environment to explain what interior design is. So just to help you out there, interior design is the art and science of enhancing interiors of buildings to achieve a healthier and more aesthetically pleasing environment for people using the space. Interior design is the profession and practice of designing interior spaces. Say what? There is science involved? Yes, believe it or not, there is in fact a science to what we do. Not only science, but art and psychology as well. Interior design is the combination of these 3 elements, which makes it such a multifaceted profession. Bring on the debate of the role of an interior designer versus an interior decorator then. Don't worry guys, we will get to this topic and this burning question, but for now, let's carry on understanding what an interior design role is. The profession of interior design is a multifaceted one, as we've just looked at, making it incredibly appealing to a variety of people, not just us creatives. Some of the elements and functions that form a part of the role that an interior designer fulfills are as follows. Firstly, concept development, space planning, planning out the spaces and the projects you're working on, dealing with contractors and clients, site inspections, and I'm referring to being on site and understanding exactly what's happening on the project during construction, construction management, and then most excitingly, design execution. Now that we know that interior design is the profession, who is the professional? Well, that is the interior designer, of course. An interior designer is a professional, generally someone who has some sort of certificate behind them, who designs and ensures that indoor spaces are safe, functional, and aesthetically pleasing. They do this, or should I say we do this, by assessing the project space, determining what is required through a brief, and executing the brief by selecting and implementing furniture and structural elements. We also need to make sure that the design principles and elements have been considered and applied to the project. An interior designer is someone who works with a client to create aesthetically pleasing and functional rooms and spaces. Your clients and projects that you may find yourself working on can range from a small house, so a domestic project, right through to retail, hospitality, and commercial spaces. So let's take a look at some of the design sectors you could find yourself working in your interior design journey. Firstly, we have the retail design sector, and that refers to your stores, malls, and shopping centers. We then have your hospitality design, so that could refer to hotels and restaurant design. You then have commercial design, which refers to office space environments. You then have the domestic design sector, referring to homes and residential spaces. And then marine. Yes, think about luxury yachts, even they have designers. So as the designer, you can be expected to take on a variety of various roles throughout the lifespan of a project. We are going to cover these roles in a lot more detail in Module 2, but for now, some of these elements that you can be expected to take on are as follows. Firstly, reading and creating blueprints. So these would be your construction and working drawings. You'll need to be able to create concept presentations, and that could be through 3D models and renderings of these concepts. You'll need to specify color palettes by deciding color and texture that is going to be implemented into the project. You'll be expected to place and source furniture, as well as be on site during the project lifespan and coordinate the project. And lastly, create a set of professional documentation such as the budgets, scope of works, and quotations. Right, so I've got a question for you. On your screen are 3 images. Can you use these images to tell me which one of these best describe what we do as interior designers? I'll give you a second to think about it. You can make a note for yourselves in your sketchbooks. So we've got option A, image A, which is a plan view or a drawing view of a space. Option B is a wedding venue showing furniture placement and decor elements. And image C is an image of a hospital area, the entrance of a hospital. Which image relates best to what we do as interior designers? So the correct answer that you're looking for is in fact all of the above. There is no right or wrong answer here. The fact of the matter is that irrespective of what space you're inhabiting around you, there's always going to be some form of interior design or architecture within that space. It's become such a part of our daily lives we don't even notice it at all. And that is exactly what interior design should be. Interior design is a career path that many fall in love with very early on in the journey. Interior design can be one of the most exciting and ever-changing professions or career paths. But why? Here are 5 of the best kept secrets about why interior design is one of the best career paths to choose from. Starting off with number 1 and my all-time favorite, you can become your own boss. This is one of my favorite elements and one that I find most of my students find most attractive about this career path. The flexibility and variety that is available to us as interior designers allow us to grow really fast and build up our own small to medium businesses in a matter of only a few years. This industry allows flexibility and travel, which is even more appealing and enticing to a parent or an aspiring entrepreneur. Secondly, it's a booming industry. The interior design industry has been on a steady upward climb for years, and we don't see it declining anytime soon, especially with the migration to work from home and the lifestyle that follows that. Environments are needing to adapt to accommodate this as well. There's also a growing need for comfortable and luxurious spaces, which has led to an increase in demand for interior designers. Therefore, choosing an interior design course is a really smart career move. Then we have the element of flexibility. This career path offers the choice of travel or office-bound elements. Due to the variety of design sectors and design job roles, there is a place for those who love to travel and experience amazing, breathtaking architecture and design abroad. However, there's also a place for those of you who would like to remain close to home or even work from home. Flexibility in this industry is prime. Number 4, job satisfaction. I have never met an interior designer who has said that they don't love what they do. Yes, there are incredibly stressful moments or even large periods of time that incur large stressful elements, but the satisfaction of actually getting to experience your design in person outweighs any of the negative moments. I actually cannot describe the immense joy that one feels when a project has come a full circle and that you're able to witness the happiness that the client has when you show them the final project. And lastly, the financial benefit. Given that interior design is a booming industry, it fulfills the basic human need to shelter, and that there are so many various roles within this industry, it makes it a fairly easy one to find work, whether that be in a firm or in a freelance capacity. This is not something that many other industries can attest to, so it makes it a really appealing one at that. Right, so obviously we're learning how to become interior designers. An important factor here is what can you expect to earn as an interior designer? This salary breakdown is from an internet site called Career Explorer, and one that I suggest you check out. It gives great information and insight to various salaries that you can be earning as an interior designer, broken down per year and an hourly rate as well. It starts typically from the bottom, it gives you a median range and then a top percentile range. And obviously, as you can see there, our top rate is about $92,000 a year. From here, they then break the categories down from seniority, starting off with your top level designer, moving to a senior level interior designer, starting at $34 an hour, moving to $70,000 a year. From here, we move to your middle level or middleweight designer, to junior, and then lastly looking at your starting level designer. Definitely a site to check out, as there's some extra information broken down into states as well. Obviously this is pertaining to America specifically. You can also Google the area that you live in. Let's, for instance, say you are currently living in South Africa and you're wanting to know what kind of salary potential you can earn there. Pop onto Google, type in the country, type in the career path that you've chosen, and then put salary expectation next to that. A whole range and variety of information will pop up for you. Right, so moving on. Before we go any further, I want to point out that a very, very big part of what we do as interior designers is to create well-designed spaces. So let's take a look at what that means. I'm about to throw a curveball at you. Did you know that there is such a thing as a poorly designed space or a well-designed space? I'm sure most of you have had this thought before, but possibly not as often as interior designers need to consider this during a project phase. Yes, guys, there's a definite difference and consciousness around well-planned or badly planned spaces. Therefore, not everyone can just start planning or calling themselves interior designers. Interior design is so much more than just applying color to a wall or fabric to cushions. Interior design is about giving purpose and function to a space and improving the built environment around us, and therefore improving people's lives. I have another question for you. Would you go to a movie that you didn't like? Or eat something that just didn't taste that great? Well, I can tell you that I would absolutely not. Why? Because it's human nature to gravitate towards pleasing elements. And that same concept applies to interior design and spaces as well. Well, when it comes to architecture and design, a badly designed space is less easy to avoid, and therefore the focus on good design and well-planned spaces is so imperative. Because of this, we have architects and designers who devote their careers to planning out spaces, ensuring that they are perfectly suited to the functions and habits taking place within these spaces. An inadequate design and poorly planned space will have a direct impact on the functions and lives of people inhabiting those spaces for years to come. This is growing increasingly important with the movement from work from home and more indoor activities taking place. Interior design aids in improving space quality by combining the following elements. Firstly, your design principles, basic ergonomics, and environmental impacts. Each of the above factors should be your core thought and starting points when starting planning out any project from scratch. Here's a question for you. Look at this interior and tell me if you think it's a well-designed space or a poorly designed space. The answer you're looking for is that it is a well-designed space for the simple fact that the function that it was intended for, it's able to be performed. A well-designed space is not only adding aesthetic value, but as mentioned above, it has a lot to do with the principles, elements, and functions that have been planned and thought through for that space. In general, we are surrounded by well-designed spaces in our everyday lives and have become less aware of great design than we are of poor design. This is because we need well-designed spaces to be able to carry out normal daily functions. Let's have a look at this image on your screen as an example. Make a note for yourself in your sketchbooks as to why you think it's a well-designed space or a poorly designed space. I'm sure that most of you have the answer to this almost immediately. This is because, and again, we're used to well-designed spaces, so poorly designed spaces stick out like a sore thumb. The answer that you're looking for is that this is a poorly designed space. Let me show you why. Firstly, the proportion of the furniture is all wrong. Look at the desk. There's a tiny desk in a really large space, so the space wasn't used effectively. Secondly, the layout does not allow the space to function optimally. Having your desk bumped up right against the wall is not going to promote workflow or effective working. We as the designer have a huge responsibility to ensure that we never leave our customers uncomfortable in our designs. This is obviously something that we want to avoid at all costs. Let's take a look at another example. This is an image of a hospital lobby. From looking at this image, can you list the ways in which the designer has improved the functions within the space? What do you think that they thought about and added when planning the space? Make some notes for yourself in your sketchbooks. Right off the bat, I can list at least 3 areas that the function has been aided or improved. The first element that I want to draw your attention to is the flow of the space. It has a clear route of traffic flow and sufficient space for the activities and functions to be performed within these spaces. There's allocated space for each function to take place in its own location, such as a seating area for guests or a reception area for the receptionist to take on customer queries. Secondly, and this is probably more an aesthetic element, but definitely want to consider, this is the mood. The mood of the space has been enhanced with the use of color, fabric, and texture. The colors are not overpowering and bring a sense of calm to the space, which is definitely what you need in a hospital environment. The next element or item that I've identified is comfort. The space is definitely comfortable and not overwhelming. This plays on the idea of scale and proportion. We then need to look at the function. Now, this is key. When designing a space, we need to consider the intention of the space, what needs to happen within that space, and then we need to design around that. Good design takes into consideration the function of a space. Take a minute to have a look at your own home or office that you may be currently working in. Have a go at listing the areas and items that you feel have not been designed well or have been designed well. Some of the elements that you could consider are the position. Has the designer or architect thought about how to bring natural light in? You can think about colors. What colors have been used to aid the mood of the space? And you can think about the general layout of the space. Can you walk around with ease? Can you perform the desired functions that you need to within that space with ease? Some other elements you can consider is lighting. How have the lights been added and positioned in your kitchen to aid in cooking or aid in reading? You can think about the levels of the counter, so the ergonomics within the space. Are they set at perfect heights as not to strain the body? You can then also consider things like fabric and texture. Has the fabric been used in the space correctly? Do they change the sound within the space? So do they affect the acoustics within the space? All these elements have been thought and added to a space to increase functionality and experience within those environments in order to create a well-designed space. These well-designed spaces are the masterpieces of great designers. But here is something that I bet you didn't know. Not all designers have the same design personalities. There are so many areas within the design industry that we as designers are able to choose which skills or personalities within the design industry appeal to us most. There is a big misconception about interior designers, that they are all probably artists. For a designer, drawing is not the creative process as it is for the artist. Drawing for an interior designer is a way of thinking and communication. It's the way in which we develop and deconstruct concepts and ideas. Creativity comes in so many different forms within the interior design industry. There is quite a nice way to look at it by taking apart the design personalities. There are also so few careers that allow you to choose which characteristics you are going to follow and make use of specifically within your career path. Let's take a look at what they are as we start off by looking at which design personality are you. As we know, there are many aspects and career paths within the interior design field, which makes it such a fun and exciting environment to be a part of. Every day brings about a different design personality, which makes it an exciting and ever-changing industry. So with that being said, let's highlight and look at the various different design personalities that form a part of the design industry, starting off with the creative. We then have the planner, the technical buff, and the communicator. So just right off the bat, looking at these various personalities, which one do you think you are? Keep the answer to yourself as we investigate these personalities a little bit further, starting off with the creative. The creative, enough said. This is the stuff of artists, mood boards, presentations, and developing concepts, as well as so much more. This is the land of layout fantasy, color coordination, and fabric. The sky is the limit. So for the creative, they really thrive in the mood board section of a project, the design and concept development areas. For the planner, creativity is found in puzzling and planning the space to ensure optimum functionality, working with client requirements and their needs to create the best traffic flow and ensure that the space has been thought through to the T. So for this personality, creativity is found in the way you're planning your space, and then obviously they thrive in space planning elements of the project. Next, we have the technical buff. Creativity here is found in the detail. Drawing after drawing after drawing, sitting with a technical drawing for hours and making sure that they have all the technical detail possible so that the contractor can accurately build the masterpiece. The thrill here for this personality is in the detail, and the creativity is found in the way that they detail their drawings. The next personality we look at is the communicator. Creativity here is in the words of coffee dates with their client, on-site meetings with contractors, coordinating what and when each part of the project needs to be put in place. This personality thrives in the daily meetings with their clients, presenting the project and helping the client visualize the artwork that they have in mind. Creativity here is found in the way that they make the client feel or see what they're trying to create before they've even started the project. Creativity in words. Personally, my excitement lies in the space planning side, as I am naturally a problem solver. Through this course, we'll cover all of the aspects involved in interior design and the career paths that you may find yourself working in, and you can use that to establish which career or design personality you fit in with. In Module 4, we're going to revisit the design personalities, and we'll be able to see which design personality you may fall into. Right, jumping back into the lesson, we are going to take a step back. Did you know the interior design profession is a fairly new industry? It's just over about 100 years old, but it has only recently been recognized as a profession of its own, a standalone profession, if you will. So if this is a new profession, how did it come about that we now call ourselves interior designers? How did the interior design industry come about? Any ideas? So much like many other professions, it had developed from a need in the industry. There was a need in the market. What started out as the art of decorating, embracing form and function, evolved into today's world of highly specialized study of interior design that requires years of study and experience. Now you'll start to see why everyone confuses designers and decorators. It's not their fault, guys. It's all in our history. Let's begin in the 1900s. The first time the term interior decorator was used was in America. The so-called decorators had no form of study or academic record behind them, but they seemed to have the gift of style, logic, and natural talent to solving their clients' problems or design needs. The first solid movement towards this career becoming something of recognition was thanks to Elsie de Wolf. We call her the mother of interior design. Elsie de Wolf became the first interior decorator to publish the first interior design book in 1914. The name of this book was The House in Good Taste. She was considered the first American professional interior designer. And also, just a side note, this industry is not only a female industry, it's very much a male-orientated industry as well. There are some very well-known male interior designers that you should check out. Elsie de Wolf had a strong belief in creating an overall design statement that created harmony within the space. She believed that this statement needed to reflect the woman's personality as opposed to the husband earning power. De Wolf introduced a startling freshness to the elaborate, heavily fringed and tasseled Victorian design sensibility of her time. If you're wanting a little bit more information on Elsie de Wolf and a little background on interior design and interior decorating, please pop on over to your bonus notes as I've added some additional reading for you there. Having had a look at the short history of design, we now need to look at how designers have communicated up until now. What tactics have interior designers used to communicate their work? That brings us to our next topic, how designers communicate. What do you think we use to communicate our ideas? Think about that. To understand communication, we need to look at the methods that designers use to communicate. To understand the methods of communication, we need to look at the tools used to communicate and what techniques and methods we use. The tools that we as designers use to communicate our project work are your manual drafting tools and your computer-aided software tools. So when we speak about manual drafting tools, we speak about drawing by hand. This could be rough drawings, neat drawings, any type of drawing by hand. We would use tracing paper, sketch pads, pens and pencils, as well as rendering pens such as Copic markers. When we speak about using tools like computer-aided software, we speak about software programs like CAD programs. These programs would include AutoCAD, SketchUp, Revit, 3D Studio Max, and so many more. These tools are what we use to communicate to our clients. We show them our ideas and our concepts for the project using these tools. With our tools, we use certain techniques to create our presentations. We use the following presentation methods to present and communicate our ideas to our clients. So firstly, we have our plan. We've got an elevation and section. And then these are views that we would usually communicate our ideas in. We would use 2D elements and techniques to create those views, or 3D techniques. And then lastly, we would put all of that information into a presentation format. So these are your techniques. These are all the techniques that we use to communicate our ideas, our concepts, and how we see the project going from A to B. Each of these techniques above will form a part of your interior design project pack, and they will come along at various stages of your project life cycle. Let's break up some of these techniques so that you know exactly what I'm talking about. We start off with the plan view. The plan is a view from the above looking down on into a space. A plan indicates the function, circulation, traffic flow, and routes of the tasks that will be performed within any given space. Plan drawings are probably one of the most important starting points to your project. Can you see how much information we're able to take away from this simple plan drawing without having even been or seen the space? Right, so here are the key takeaway points. A plan is generally a 2D drawing recorded from the point of view of someone looking down on into that space. It shows traffic flow as well as how the space has been planned optimally. Stay tuned for lesson 2, where we go into a lot more detail about what the plan drawing is, how it helps us as interior designers, and what to include by drawing up our very own plan drawings. The next 2 techniques we have are our elevation and sections. An elevation and section are both drawings of a side of an object or a side view of a building. An elevation and section are both communicated in the form of a 2D drawing, which communicate the 2D vertical aspects of a building, so the side visions or views of the building. On your screen is an example of an elevation, clearly showing the vertical aspects to the home. An elevation is a drawing that shows the side of a building or an object and gives us insight into the height of that object or building and any vertical elements associated with that space. Then we have the all-exciting section. So on your screen is an example of a section drawing. The section shows us very similar information to your elevation, but with one main difference. Can anyone tell me what it is? The section has been cut away or sliced in half, allowing us a view into the space, giving us some form of X-ray vision. Another interesting fact, a plan drawing is also in fact a type of section, but they cut through the building on a horizontal plane rather than the vertical plane. In this sense, you are cutting the roof away of that building in your plan view, whereas your section view is a side view. A section is a great view as it shows us the different internal levels through the space, where your elevation may only show you external levels. Elevations and sections are covered in more detail in the next 2 weeks of Module 1, but we will be drawing up our own elevations in Lesson 3, so stay tuned, really exciting. A 2D drawing is a 2-dimensional drawing, a flat single-surfaced visual. It shows us no depth, so it doesn't give us a sense of depth of a space or depth of an object, whereas the 3D drawing gives us the best indication of what your client or audience can expect from a variety of different aspects. It gives us an idea of depth, space, and movement within the space. As we're nearing to the end of today's lesson, let me bring you up to speed on what you can expect for Lesson 2. We are going to be taking our skill set up a notch as we start looking at the floor plan. We're going to be taking our skills learned from this lesson to create our very first communication floor plans. This lesson is going to be dedicated to looking at what a floor plan is, what needs to be shown on your floor plan, and then super exciting, how to manually create and draw up your very own floor plan. So that's Lesson 2. Let's not get ahead of ourselves. Jumping back into Let's Get Sketching, our next topic. We've now successfully understood the methods of design, so the plan, the section, and the elevation. We now need to look at the how. How do you propose we showcase this communication? Come on, guys, help me out here. Right, so we can either make use of our CAD, computer-aided software, or we can go about sketching. Yes, you heard me, I said sketching. Don't be scared of this word. Sketching is here to become your new best friend, and again, you really don't need to be good at sketching. You need to shift your mind from now on and understand that sketching will become the way you speak and communicate. This is something that you need to get used to. Sketching is used as a tool to extract numerous ideas out quickly before you enter them onto a computer to start designing and creating your project look and feel. Sketching can be used as a tool for a rough communication element at any stage of your project. Let's say you are on site with your project team. You have done all of your technical drawings and emailed that to the team. But there's a small detail that needs to be discussed on site. Your client has a question. He wants to know where the new table is going to be placed. You could take your sketch pad out and pencil and draw a diagram of where you suggest the table needs to be located. Easy and simple. Taking your client on the design journey with you is a success and the first battle complete. Sketching ideas are the first steps in the design process and something every designer should do. Sketching is not limited to designers. It occurs in many careers that require something that need to be built. The beauty of sketching is that you are not required to be an artist to produce these sketches. You just need to communicate the idea. Sketching is only there to help you explore and explain design concepts. Sketching allows the designer to understand the situation, which allows us to look at the space in a different light. When we look at something that does not require too much attention, the brain is left to fill the spaces and complete the image. For example, let's take a look at this coffee cup on your screen. I'm sure that you all saw that it was a coffee cup and you know exactly what it is, but did you notice the intricate detail? Do you see how the light falls onto the cup, creating a little bit of shadow on the side? Do you see that tiny little bit of coffee spill down the one side of the mug? When we start sketching something, we are forced to dissect the intricate detail of these elements. This in turn allows us to understand the detail and 3D quality of the visual. We then start to develop the trained eye and develop a critical mind. So some of the elements that you need to think about when sketching are light, the shadow cast, the actual shape, so what shape is the element you're drawing, the texture, the position, and then proportion. Now, knowing that sketching plays a vital role in the early stages of our project, let's look at why and how sketching takes place. So the process of sketching for a designer has two main functions. Firstly, it aids the design process, and secondly, we use sketching to communicate vital and important ideas. The basic idea when starting any sketch is to keep your sketches rough and fast. This helps you worry less on the design aesthetic and focus more on the rapid formulation of ideas. Right, so as I've mentioned before, there are many benefits to sketching. Let's take a look at what they are. Firstly, sketching saves time. It saves time in the workflow process. By jotting down really rough and quick ideas early on in the process, you're working through the ideas so you don't have to do it later or double the time. Next, it's great for brainstorming. It allows us to get our ideas out rapidly onto paper and then also allows us to collaborate with team members. Sketching refines the wireframing process, so the initial wireframe concept, and develops that further. It helps us evaluate the feasibility of features and elements and layouts and functionality issues. And then lastly, and really excitingly, anyone can sketch ideas. Sketching is about saving memories in a sketchbook with enough detail so that years later you're able to flip through and know exactly what you were trying to save or remember or convey without having to actually be in that space or have that object in front of you. With that knowledge, your sketchbook is of great importance to you as the designer. Guys, a simple tip: embrace your imperfections. It makes the drawing more unique. It's not about being an artist. It's about communicating clearly what you're wanting to show the client in a short space of time. By sketching your ideas, you have mastered step 1 of your project. Now it's your turn to try as we jump into a challenge. So just some admin again for this lesson. Every lesson or every couple of lessons, you are going to come across a challenge slide. This slide is not for marks. This challenge is not for marks, but it's to help you practice your practical elements within the lesson. So let's take a look at what your challenge is for today. I would like you to create a sketch of an object in front of you. So you can select any object, and these are the elements I want you to focus on. Why the object is interesting. Are there elements about the object that you want to convey to us as the client? How is the object put together? Have we used glue, staples? Is it stitched? What do you want to communicate about this object? Do you want to show the object size? Are you wanting to communicate the color of the object? All of that needs to be included in your sketch. I'd like you to include the general shape of the object, so that then ties in or leads into the proportion and scale of the object. And then I'd like you to have a look at the light and shadow and how the light and shadow affects that object. So you are going to use your pens, your pencils, and your colored crayons, as well as your sketchbooks, to sketch an object and focus on all of these elements that we've just covered. With that being said, we have reached the end of lesson 1. An amazing lesson and an amazing achievement, if I do say so myself. Thank you so much for joining me on this lesson, and I cannot wait to see you for lesson 2. Good luck with your challenge, and I'll see you for lesson 2.